YouTube live. So some participants will be joining over the YouTube. Yes. Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. We can all see you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance, Srinivas Acharya Prabhu. We can see you now. We can't hear you, Prabhuji. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Now we can hear you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. Vishnu Srila Prabhupada. Vancha kalpatarupesya kripa sindhubhyo vachpatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Okay. Let me do some housekeeping tasks, Prabhuji. Okay. So there might be somebody else would be joining, but let's get started, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, your voice is very low. If you can increase your voice.
Increase my voice. Okay. Is this any better, Prabhuji?
Oh, yes, Prabhuji. This is definitely better.
Okay. We can get started, Prabhuji. Probably we can do some housekeeping tasks because we are distributed between two different time zones. So the video is clear, the audio is clear.
Prabhuji, if it can be a little louder, it will be better. If it can be a little more louder.
Okay, so is there any improvement, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, I think the topic is going to be in 3 sessions, and the audience will be mixed, both who are practicing sadhakas, and I am expecting some of my recommendations to other devotees. They might join soon. So it will be. I might repeat some basic foundations of Krishna consciousness, but I would more focus on the core of the story, Prabhuji. So all of you have to put up with me if I repeat something that you already heard many times. The second thing is this will be in a modified Srimad Bhagavatam class format, in the sense that we won't sing Jai Radha Madhava, but we will do Mangalacharan, and we will read the sloka, and I will read the translations of multiple slokas, and the narration would continue. But important thing is that the question and answer will be only at the end. So we will be muting everybody, and we will open up at the end so that there will be an opportunity for you to ask ample questions. But we would recommend you to probably noting down the questions so that we will have a healthy discussion around those. Probably Prabhuji, Leelanand Prabhuji, if you have any opening comments in the beginning and closing comments at the end, keeping in mind that there might be some new devotees that are from Hyderabad, Chennai, and other locations are joining. So they might probably come to you for any help, Prabhuji.
Yeah, firstly, Prabhuji, I'm very grateful that you have chosen to give this topic during this special time when we all are going through some really testing time from an emotional and even physical perspective, staying in the house, locked up, and so many things are going on. And we're very grateful that you've chosen. I'm sure Krishna is going to speak through you, something that is useful for us. And just to let all the invite everybody on the call whom I know and whom I don't know, please accept my humble obeisances. And I'm recording this session, so you can see it live even after the session is over. If you miss in case or you could not attend the whole thing, it will be on YouTube channel. And right now also it is on YouTube. If your Zoom is not working fine, you can also log into the YouTube. So with that said, I'm very eager to hear today's talk from you, Prabhuji. I will not take any more seconds. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 23 chapter, called the Song of Avanti Brahmana, and we will be reading the entire chapter in a 3-part session. And I will read the first sloka as I stated, and translations of all the slokas that are in scope for today. And then the commentary follows. Sri Badarayani Uvacha Sa Yevam Asamsita Uddhavena Bhagavata Mukyena Dasarha Mukyaha Sabhajayan Bhrutyavacho Mukunda Tama Bhavashe Sravaniya Viryaha. Translation by His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sukadeva Goswami said, Lord Mukunda, the chief of the Dasarhas, having thus been respectfully requested by the best of his devotees, Sri Uddhava, first acknowledged the fitness of his servant's statements. Then the Lord, whose glorious exploits are most worthy of being heard, began to reply to him. The Lord Sri Krishna said, O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized man. Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. My dear Uddhava, in this regard, a most pious story is told, and I shall now describe it to you. Please listen with careful attention. Once a certain sannyasi was insulted in many ways by impious men. However, with determination, he remembered that he was suffering the fruits of his own previous karma. I will narrate to you his story and that which he spoke. In the country of Avanti, there once lived a certain Brahmana who was very rich and gifted with all opulences, and who was engaged in the occupation of commerce. But he was a miserly person, lusty, greedy, and very prone to anger. In his home, devoid of religiosity and lawful sense gratification, the family members and guests were never properly respected. Even with words, he would not even allow sufficient gratification for his own body at the suitable times. Since he was so hard-hearted and miserly, his sons, in-laws, wife, daughters, and servants began to feel inimical towards him. Becoming disgusted, they would never treat him with affection. In this way, the presiding deities of 5 family sacrifices became angry at the Brahmana, who, being niggardly, guarded his wealth like a yaksha, who had no good destination, either in this world or the next, and who was totally deprived of religiosity and sense enjoyment. O magnanimous Uddhava, by his neglect of these demigods, he depleted his stock of piety and all his wealth. The accumulation of his repeated exhaustive endeavors was totally lost. Some of the wealth of this so-called Brahmana was taken away by his relatives. My dear Uddhava, some by thieves, some by the whims of providence, some by the effects of time, some by ordinary men, and some by government authorities. Finally, when his property was completely lost, he who never engaged in religiosity or sense enjoyment became ignored by his family members. Thus he began to feel unbearable anxiety. Having lost all his wealth, he felt great pain and lamentation. His throat choked up with tears. And he meditated for a long time on his fortune. Then a powerful feeling of renunciation came over him. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam Cha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauravakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam langum Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat krupadam aham vande Sri Gurum dinatarinam paramananda madhavam. So, Prabhujis and Matajis, before I speak anything on this glorious verse, I want to take your permission and blessings, because there is nothing good that ever can be said without the blessings of Vaishnavas and by the mercy of Guru and the Acharyas. And in Gaudiya Parampara, the disclaimer verse that I just spoke, that a lame man can cross the mountains, a blind man can see the stars, and a dumb man can hear, and can speak eloquent poetry, only by the mercy of the Guru. And to that spiritual master, and to that parampara, I bow down at their lotus feet today before I start speaking on this. If anything good I say today and the next two sessions, it is only by the mercy of my spiritual master. And if anything I speak which is not appropriate, is because of my own conditioning. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam and chapter 23. This is after the most glorious canto, 10th canto. Krishna comes back from Kurukshetra, spends 4 months and spends 4 months in Hastinapur and goes to Dwaraka, and where he meets Uddhava. Uddhava laments to the Supreme Lord, saying that how unfortunate he was, that how fortunate Arjuna was, that the Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita to him, to Arjuna. And Uddhava lamentation continues, and Krishna, being compassionate to his very dear devotee, he speaks so many different topics, and those are recorded in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the topic that we are trying to discuss today is actually the topic of 3 songs. And the first song is Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna spoke to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Uddhava, knowing that he missed that Bhagavad Gita, pleads to Krishna to speak some of those details. And their conversation between Krishna and Uddhava is what is popularly called as Uddhava Gita. This is the second Gita. And Uddhava Gita is a broad topic where Krishna discusses many different topics. And we are discussing about the story of Avanti Brahmana, which is part of Uddhava Gita. And in this Uddhava Gita, as Krishna explains in a very simple terms, he speaks the story about the Avanti Brahmana, and the chapter ends what Krishna calls is Bhikshu Gita. That is the third song. So this topic this chapter when we are going to discuss today is actually 3 sessions. The first part covers from Sloka 1 to 13, where the Avanti Brahmana's past life, means in that very life, before he actually starts his spiritual transformation, is discussed. What was the background of Avanti Brahmana? That is the first part. The second part is verses from 14th to 41, where the realizations of Avanti Brahmana are explained. And the third section of this chapter is when actually the Avanti Brahmana starts singing the song called Bhikshu Gita. And it is also called as a song on mind. So the 3-part series are titled as Mind, Mirror, and Modes. And the mind is because when we venture into the second part, which is the realizations part, and the third part, which is actually the song, Avanti Brahmana explains how much mind tortures a conditioned living entity. And Krishna himself explains in Bhagavad Gita that mind is the best friend installed within the body when the senses are under control. But when the senses are not under control, Krishna explains that mind is your worst enemy. And Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita, there are 3 gates to hell: Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Lust, anger, and greed. And Krishna explains to Arjuna that these 3 are 3 gates to the hell. And he advises Arjuna that one should make every attempt to try to avoid the disaster of falling prey to these 3 sinful attitudes. And in the verses today, Avanti Brahmana was identified by Krishna that he has all these 3. He succumbed to all these 3. And Avanti Brahmana, after we discuss today on his Grahastha life, in the next week when we discuss realizations part, Avanti Brahmana explains how mind, when we accept we are a material body, and when we start acting on mental platform and recognizing ourselves with mind, and senses are out of control, and that mind acts as a mirror of this material world, and through which we plan, we execute, and we receive the results of those karmic activities. And the third one, modes, the 3 modes of material nature. So those who are on the path of devotional life, they try to purify their consciousness, they try to purify their anarthas, they try to make themselves better so that they can serve the Lord Krishna. So the pure devotional service can be enacted only when somebody completely gets out of the 3 modes of material nature. But those who are under the 3 modes of material nature, the Prakriti punishes them through three different levels: Adhyatmika, Adi Daivika, and Adi Bhautika. So this story is not about the last two parts, but about Adhyatmika, how a living entity suffers because of his own body, and the misery caused by mind and the material body. And this song is the song that Avanti Brahmana sings is about mind, and he arrives at a very powerful conclusions. So we also see a parallel in Srimad Bhagavatam, that there was another Brahmana whose name was Ajamil. And just like Avanti Brahmana, this Ajamil had a very good upbringing, and he was trained by his parents very well, and he led a very pious life, and he got married to a beautiful wife. But on a fateful day, when he watches a prostitute in the hands of a man, lusty man, his whole life that was built on strong foundation crumbles. And eventually he turns out to be a great sinner. And when his life was almost at the about to be completed, and because of the pious things he did in the very early part of his life, the Lord comes to the rescue and saves him. But the difference between Ajamil and Avanti Brahmana is that Ajamil was a textbook example of the lust, kama. Avanti Brahmana was an example of greediness. His greediness towards acquiring, maintaining, and protecting wealth. So for these two reasons, Krishna and the Acharyas, by their causeless mercy, they dedicated two separate chapters, one on Ajamil and one on Avanti Brahmana. We have to remember that Avanti Brahmana is not on a mission to preach and liberate and save suffering souls. He is not on that mission, just like Srila Prabhupada. Avanti Brahmana was not a preacher. Avanti Brahmana was suffering so much because he was a Grihastha. He made several mistakes, and because of which he was suffering. And he thought of purifying himself, and he didn't extend his spiritual pursuits to uplift the much larger society. But Krishna found this as an example that there will be many people, especially sadhakas in future, especially in Kali Yuga, who will have similar tendencies like Avanti Brahmana, who will be so much addicted to those three gates of hell: Kama, Krodha, Lobha. So Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, who is our Acharya, one of the 6 Goswamis in Gaudiya Parampara, he explained that we should not be endeavoring more, atyahara prayasascha. So that is a roadblock for our spiritual progress. So the story of Avanti Brahmana is an example of what we end up with if we don't follow what Rupa Goswami was explaining in those prayers. So Avanti Brahmana story, just like Ajamil it is about to enter, about to become a disaster. And then Avanti Brahmana turned around. And from almost a near disaster, he turned around and make it a glorious ending. And we read in this chapter that Krishna initially identifies Avanti Brahmana as a Brahma Bandhu. Krishna does not recognize Avanti Brahmana in early part as a Brahmana, even though he was born in a Brahmana family. But he cites this is a pious story because he went through the required training that every one of us must go through. Though not to the degree he went through. But this material nature will not leave any one of us have very happy anartha nivrutti. Material nature will never say that. Have a happy anartha nivrutti. It will make us to go through unbearable pain, both at gross level and subtle level. Just like a sannyasi explained, that even if we lead a perfect life and nice to our neighbors and everybody else, but this material nature is such a way, like those two bamboo trees who were born together like two sisters and played together during their childhood and grew taller to their adulthood. And they were always taking care of each other, nice to each other, and suddenly the wind blows. And wind, when it blows, these two bamboo trees rub against each other and the fire breaks out and they were burned to ashes. So this material nature is cruel. And it is cruel that it will not allow us to stay happily because this is not our place to live. So Krishna, in order to teach us that lesson, whether it is corona or something else, so that we are continuously under the attack, continuously under the harassment that Avanti Brahmana describes in the second part of this series. So, some of the things that we have to remember, that how much it is important to recognize the pain caused by the mind, the torture of mind inflicted on the soul, and how to rectify that. That will be our takeaway at the end of this 3-part series. So Avanti Brahmana, very interestingly, he applies filters. He doesn't apply filters. What is a filter? A filter is something that stands between you and someone else. When our heart is planning to communicate something, and when we know that saying that as it is will cause problem, we apply filter and translate that message, transform that message and pass it on to other person. So there is a filter. And here Avanti Brahmana, when he was going through his realizations in the second part of the sessions, his realizations are deep and honest because there are no filters in it. But when he is dealing with other people who are causing him harassment, unbearable harassment, when we go through those slokas, we understand how much pain this poor Brahmana went through, even though he didn't cause any trouble to anybody. And when he was going through those, he applies multi-layered filters, not finding faults with them, not telling them anything, not blaming them anything. And if you recall, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met the Vasudeva the leper, and Vasudeva leper fell on the feet of the Lord and started praying, "Oh my Lord, why you gave my bodily beauty again? Why you made me young, beauty and strong? And with leprosy, I was so self-content and humble and down to my senses, down to the reality of my life. Now you made me handsome again. Now my pride will go up. Why you did this, my Lord?" So Lord Chaitanya replies back saying that in order not to fall victim to that, you have to do two things. One, always chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chant always this mantra, which will protect you. And two, don't find faults with anybody else. So when we find faults with anybody else, what happens is that whatever sinful activities that person has done, we will get a part of that because we are finding faults with that person. And whatever good qualities we are acquiring by practicing spiritual sadhana, by chanting the holy names, by reading scriptures, serving the Vaishnavas, performing archana, worshipping the deities, all these, by doing the devotional service, whatever the pious things we get, good qualities, we will lose them. We will lose them and we will get the sinful things that the other person did. It is a lose-lose situation. So the Acharyas repeatedly and emphatically highlights this point. Never, never, never find faults with anybody. That is one striking thing that we notice in this chapter, that Avanti Brahmana, despite those people passing urine on him, when he was taking his lunch, the plate in which he was trying to eat his prasad, people were passing urine into that plate, beating him with sticks, tying him up, throwing thrones onto him, abusing him with so many words. But still he will not say a single word. So this is what is called quote unquote tolerance, titikshava. So Avanti Brahmana demonstrates that. By doing so, he pleases Krishna, because at some point in his life, he realizes that he made several mistakes, and then he takes to the path of purification, and that purification was in accordance with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And because he was following the proper format, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra took the position of humility and not finding faults, glorifying the Supreme Lord, took the sannyasa, that Krishna was very pleased. And that is the reason Krishna says this is the pious story. So in today's verse, so the Dasarhas means Krishna belongs to Dasarha, and Uddhava is his cousin brother. Krishna's father was Vasudeva, and Vasudeva's brother is called Devabhaga, and Uddhava is a son of Devabhaga. And this happened in a place called Avanti. Avanti is, in modern day Indian geography, it is spread across Punjab and Madhya Pradesh. And it is sometimes called as Malwa. And this Avanti kingdom was split between North Kingdom and South Kingdom, North Avanti and South Avanti, by Vindhya mountains, Vindhya Parvat. And the north part, the capital of North Avanti was Ujjain, where Krishna went to Gurukul with Sandipani Muni. And the south part is called Mahishmati. The capital of South Avanti is called Mahishmati. And some of you, it might ring bells to you when you hear Mahishmati, because there is a famous river in Mahishmati kingdom too. And this is probably the inspiration to the Bahubali movie. So this Avanti, in modern days, it became a Buddhist center. And in olden days, in Vedic, when the Vedic king rulership was happening, they were ruled by Haihayas, the Haihaya rulers. One of them notably, even though Kartavirya did not rule Avanti, but he belongs to the same dynasty. And for some part of the time, it was part of the Magadha Empire. But the important part is it is very a cultural center. When British occupied India, they shifted from the old capital and started developing new cities. But still, there are many stupas, many tourist places in this kingdom. So this story is about, if we pay attention and if we try to understand it in proper consciousness, it is a story that purifies the ahankara that we acquire by accepting this material body. And bhakti is the purification of the mind, and which is the essential part of this story. And Srila Prabhupada explains that Hrudaya Grandhi, right, the knot that was made in the heart towards the family, immediate family, and the relatives. And the Avanti Brahmana goes through that knot and unknotting in the second part of the series. So by the time we complete these 3-part series, we should be knowing and we should be able to look at the world through the lens of Avanti Brahmana. Every time we recognize that the serpent of Ahankara is hissing in our heart, in our mind, we should immediately pray to Avanti Brahmana to inspire us and stay humble, to stay humble. And we should remember Avanti Brahmana, how much suffering he went through, so that we will calm us down. We will calm the ego, the false ego, the ahankara, so that our goal is not to please anybody and everybody in this material world. Our goal as sadhakas is to please Krishna and Guru. So today's verse is today's part is basically about Avanti Brahmana's Grihastha life. And his life, he was a very wealthy, Krishna himself says he was very wealthy man, even though he was a Brahmana man. Remember, Srila Prabhupada said, if you see a Brahmana who was wealthy, he is not a Brahmana. And I was meditating for some time. What is the shastric basis when Srila Prabhupada made that comment? And that basis comes from this chapter when Krishna himself is confirming that Avanti Brahmana is a Brahma Bandhu, not a Brahmana. And Krishna is confirming the second thing, that he was extremely wealthy. And his wealth came because he was a businessman, agriculturalist, and he was a merchant. He was a greedy. He was a miser, prone to anger. And these verses, he not only had any sense gratification for himself. Krishna says that allowed lawful gratification, because being a grahastha, we are entitled to have some gratification. For the pain we go through to maintain grahastha life, the Shastra allows us to have some gratification, limited, very limited though, to have that gratification. And this Brahmana was such a miser that he did not even go through that. He not only went through any of his gratification, but he did not allow his family members to go through that. So by doing so, he did not allow his wife, his daughters, and his sons, servants, and everybody around. So that is the reason he is called a miser, kripana. Prabhupada says in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna responds back saying, before he surrenders to Krishna, Karpanya doso pahata swabhavaha pruchami tvam dharma sammoda cheta istreyah syanyasitam bruhi tanme sisyaste aham tvam sadimam tvam prapannam. So one can surrender to Krishna only when they get out of this kripana stage. As long as somebody is attached to the material thing, it is impossible to surrender to Krishna. So in this chapter, we will learn Krishna consciousness trains us that love is our highest goal. That Krishna prema is the topmost goal. To acquire that Krishna prema is the goal of bhakti. But Krishna consciousness at the same time teaches us the dangers of attachments, especially material attachments, and how we should handle those attachments, and through the story of Avanti Brahmana. So when we are going through these slokas, we have to take them to the heart, that the story was narrated by the Supreme Lord for a reason, that he wants to highlight how it's detrimental to acquire so much wealth and protect it, forgetting Krishna, not performing our daily responsibilities. And when eventually time takes away all those from us, either before our death or at the time of death, how much suffering it causes. So in the second verse, Krishna says that, O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized man. Why Krishna says insulting words of uncivilized man? Right? And he says that when those words are coming from an uncivilized man, those are much more disturbing than an arrow piercing through the heart. Because a civilized man will never say those words. A perfectly a gentleman who has the samskaras, who has been trained by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, will never utter a word which will hurt the feelings of another common man. What to think of another devotee? Those words, when we hear from somebody which are hurting us, if somebody is speaking those words, means the training is not complete. So here Krishna says that those insulting words naturally comes from an uncivilized man, and they will pierce the heart, and there will be people who get distracted and waste many lifetimes, like Amba in Mahabharata. Amba interpreted that Bhishma insulted her during the Kasi Swayamvara. And she was so disturbed that she wasted 3 lifetimes and achieved nothing. The same thing we see between Dronacharya and Drupada. Probably a better example, right? So when both of them had a conversation, each of them took that they insulted each other, and they caused the death of each other. Complete waste of one lifetime. One is a son of Bharadwaj Muni, a very powerful warrior, well educated, very qualified, exalted person. But still, because he was trapped in that idea that Drupada insulted him by not giving the cow, Drupada insulted him with his words because he asked Dronacharya to go and beg him. So Dronacharya took a path that eventually landed him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But in this Avanti Brahmana story, we study that Avanti Brahmana went through much more intense insults. But he never took it to his heart. He transformed all those insults into realizations and eventually into a beautiful song. And every day when he goes out to the begging, to village, house to house, he used to sing that song, Bhikshu Pita, along the way, and whoever gives the Bhiksha, he accepts it and goes to the river, nearby river, and cooks for his meal. Just imagine if that is the attitude. If someone had, so many disasters would have been averted. When Haridas Thakur was insulted by Ramchandra Khan, Haridas Thakur did not curse him, even though he has the capacity. He is qualified to curse him. He can do anything, but he bowed down his head and he accepted all those insults and he went back. He went back to his chanting. So when one controls his emotions and stops finding faults with others, that is the symptom of a pure devotee. And that means he understood the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. That means he understood Lord Chaitanya's teachings, the Goswami's teachings, the Acharya's teachings, and finally he understood the mercy of Krishna. Why Krishna again and again? Ye yadhamam prapadyante tam tadaiva bhajamyaham. So we become qualified to receive the mercy of Krishna. This whole world may consider us a failure, a useless person, but such a person will be most valuable in the eyes of Krishna. And this Avanti Brahmana sitting on the bank of the river when people were urinating in his lunch plate and tying him up to the nearby tree and beating him with the sticks and throwing stones, bleeding. And he was praying to Krishna that these are all because of my past sinful reactions. And you, oh my Lord, you are so kind to give me very small punishment. So please accept me as your servant. So Krishna tells this Avanti Brahmana story that he was a lusty, greedy, and very prone to anger. And in his home, he was devoid of religiosity and lawful sense gratification. The family members and guests were not treated So those who are attached to any material things, obviously whatever happened to Avanti Brahmana also. And this story, we don't know what yuga it happened. But Krishna tells in Dwapar Yuga to Uddhava. And how did Krishna remember this insignificant Brahmana story happened in a yuga that nobody even know about him? So he acquired the health, so much of wealth, and that wealth was lost by thieves, and and his relatives stole, cheated him. And Prabhupada, and quoting the previous Acharyas, says that there was a fire that also caused some damage because he was an agriculturalist. The crops didn't come, and he incurred so much of loss, and government levied so much of tax on him. All these things put together over a period of time have completely nullified the wealth that he accrued, and eventually his family and relatives kicked him out. So he walked out of his grahastha life, reached a point in where he cannot see anything to go back. So finally, when his property was lost, he who never engaged in religiosity or sense enjoyment, he was ignored by his family members. Thus, he began to feel unbearable anxiety. Anxiety, right? So many of us know we have those anxiety. Some of us don't know that we have anxiety. But as long as we are in material world, we always, each one of us go through this anxiety. This is the word of Shastra. And some of us take medication to deal with the effects of anxiety. And some of us just ignore it. But those that accumulate so much wealth, protecting that wealth is so much of anxiety. Protecting ourselves and our family from corona-like incidents, which are on global scale, which are under nobody's control, causes so much of anxiety. The anxiety to get a job and to keep the job is an anxiety. And this anxiety comes because we do not take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. We do not accept wholeheartedly that Krishna is the only protector. We think that we can protect ourselves. We think there are other people in our family and friends that will protect us, just like Draupadi did. We will not come to the understanding that none of these insurance policies, family, friends, they were not come to our protection, but only Krishna. And until such point, we cannot get rid of this material anxiety. And in the last verse for today, this Avanti Brahmana did not commit suicide because he went through so much in his life. To be fair to him, probably he might not have cheated anybody. He might not have killed anybody. He did not committed any major crimes, but he worked so hard to acquire wealth and protect that wealth, and not allowed his family and himself to use it. But when that wealth disappeared, there is a vacuum. And in present day society, even the celebrities go through this suicide when they could not able to deal with the modes of material nature, because they never read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. They never listen from a devotee who was trained in the parampara. So there is no training how to handle the life. And Krishna concludes that 13th verse that a powerful feeling of renunciation came over him. And that resulted in the realizations part, which will be starting next week from verse number 14 to 41. Those will be very instructive for all of us, especially me. I am speaking about myself. So whatever Prabhupada has taught us, given us, the holy names, the bhakti, the books, the association, the temples, if not all of them will be welcoming us all the time, pleasing to us all the time, comfortable to us all the time, but as the sannyasi said, we will do it anyway because it is pleasing to Krishna and Prabhupada. By going to the temple, by taking the association of Vaishnavas, by reading Prabhupada's books, by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We do that, not for us, to please Krishna. And that is one of the takeaways of this story. And today I would like to stop here. And Prabhuji, if you can unmute everybody, and if there are any questions, we can discuss. Hare Krishna. Grandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
అడుగు బెంగళూరు మెసేజ్ పెట్టు అలాగే జాయిన్ అవుతున్నావు కదా.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So everyone are on mute. I mean, you can unmute yourself and ask. If I unmute everybody, there might be other noises that might come. So any questions on what we have heard today?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mahalingam Prabhu, is that you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Very enlightening lecture, Prabhuji, and very nice things to understand from this chapter of Avanti Brahman. But I have a question of, you said the devotee can still behave well in such provoking situations, and that is sign of pure devotee. But in our situation, in our cases, we are trying to do devotional service in some small ways, but such provoking situations comes, and surely at least me, I doesn't behave well in those situations. So what do you advise at our level?
So that is what this story is meant to us, Prabhuji. It is not just you alone. Even after years and years of sadhana, the devotees go through, because Ajamil had that one visual in that garden, in his garden, when he saw that prostitute, and he was disturbed for the rest of his life. But we are living in Kali Yuga, and those visuals are everywhere, on your TV, on your cell phone, when you go out, everywhere, at your workplace, everywhere. So Krishna knows the attack, the intensity of this attack. But that actually highlights that how much you should be reading more and taking shelter. So the answer to your question is, the more and more you feel threatened by these external attacks, And the more and more you feel internally that you are not doing as per the standards laid out by the Acharyas, to that degree, you have to take shelter of the Vaishnavas, you have to listen from them and read, especially because Prabhupada said, Srimad Bhagavatam is my spiritual ecstasy. So through those books like Srimad Bhagavatam, we directly associate with Srila Prabhupada, and that association is powerful and intense. So we get purified. Yeah, again, Srila Prabhupada's books are non-different from him. So, ye adamam prapadyante tam stadayo bhajamyaham. So, to the degree we take shelter in the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, to that degree we get purified. So, yes, I am not responding to the degree I am supposed to. The attacks are more intense for me to manage. So what should I do, right? So take more and more association, more and more shelter, and chant more and more. Does that help, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. In short, you are saying we have to practice more strictly, sincerely, the same what Srila Prabhupada has given us, more strictly and sincerely, and more association reading is what you are instructing. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I heard one more Mataji asking the question. Was it Damodar Priya Mataji? Or maybe it was some other Mataji. Can you ask the question again?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Damodar Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask, like we are in this age, like I wanted to emphasize on like mental depression and like people feeling loneliness, because this has come to my notice from many days, because as growing up I was seen as a failure in life, and me growing up in America, I had to come to India, like a lot of things happened in my life, and because of Krishna's mercy and reading Prabhupada's books and being with constant association, I did gain that inner strength for me to every single day I get that inner strength within me, that Krishna is with me, I chant the holy name. But for those who do not have, this, it is really like a suffocation for them, and I've been trying to give the holy name to people that I know they're suffering from depression or loneliness. And like, if Prabhuji, if you can give some tips for younger generation how to keep their life going, keep their self motivation. I don't know if that, I was just gonna ask on that specifically.
So the Acharyas, Mataji, they explain that what is the investment into bhakti process. Especially Jiva Goswami said the Shraddha is the only investment. Means the enthusiasm to hear from higher authorities. Because bhakti starts with the Shravanam. So for somebody whom you referred, where when you are trying to give Krishna consciousness to somebody else, so those, they should be willing to hear from you or other devotees and willing to accept. But if they are in challenging mode, Prabhupada through his pastimes, repeatedly again and again, he highlighted this fact that challenging mode will not take you anywhere. So somebody has to be humble in asking questions to higher authorities and listening and accepting it. So that Shravanam is that is the only thing. None of the other material qualifications will be helping in any ways. So when we develop that Shraddha, then the other processes will naturally, organically evolve out of that. But because there are Maya presents very powerful alternatives to Krishna. And she did that when we were falling down from Goloka. We fall down because we were attracted to Maya and Krishna, and not Krishna anymore. So she gives very powerful alternatives, but we should be very focused. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeho kurunandana. So we have to be extremely focused, even when those distractions are presented to us, that we need to understand that those are Maya's tricks, and we go back to the basics. That is one thing, Mother. The second thing, I keep thinking myself that what would have happened that Krishna, instead of speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjun in the battle of Kurukshetra, he went straight to Duryodhana and revealed himself as Bhagavan. So, rather than revealing Virat Roop to Arjun and speaking all those 700 slokas, so if Krishna stepped down from the chariot and walked right to Duryodhana and did the same thing to Duryodhana, did Duryodhana accept Krishna as God despite those wonderful teachings, despite those Virat Roop? No, not at all. Because he was not in the right frame of mind. So that is the reason, even though Arjuna knows almost everything that is what Krishna was teaching in Bhagavad Gita before Krishna spoke, but Krishna made Arjuna to forget and start him again rather than going to Duryodhana and teaching him, because Duryodhana requires that knowledge. Arjuna doesn't require this knowledge. So by doing so, Krishna himself is giving us clues that we can help anybody who is a suffering soul. And when we are trying to distribute Krishna consciousness, we have to understand, is this person is a representative of Arjuna or a representative of Duryodhana? So we can be, if Krishna himself did not if Krishna himself did not offer Krishna consciousness to Duryodhana, how can we? Krishna might have, there is nothing that Krishna cannot do. So if Krishna forced Duryodhana, Duryodhana might have become devotee on the spot. There is nothing in all 14 planetary systems, either in material world or even in spiritual world. There is nothing that Krishna cannot do. But Krishna will not do certain things because he will follow some guidelines.
He will not force anyone. He will not force anyone to like him.
Exactly. So that is the reason, Mataji, we have to understand that, who is willing to accept and who is not willing to accept. So the anxiety issues are because they should tell us every day, every hour, that when we are going through that anxiety, when we don't get good grades in school or get a job, dream job that we are aspiring for, when the promotion doesn't come through, when our bank balance is going down, we should remember that when we are going through those anxieties, we should remember that we are trusting Maya more than Krishna. And Vedic system has a natural prescription which works in a very organic way without any side effects. And that is taking shelter of a devotee of Krishna. So by taking, the more and more we take the shelter, we avoid the disasters that come through this anxiety. Right? Those anxieties will increase more when we become a devotee. Krishna puts us through more troubles in Krishna consciousness because he wants to test us, that we are taking his teachings very seriously. So that is an opportunity for us to repeatedly fall back onto the principles and confirm our behavior to those principles. Does that help
Yes,
the answer,
so much,
Mata?
Prabhuji. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, I have an experience to share, and I also have a question to ask. Can I can I
Sure.
do that?
Yes, bro.
I'll take a brief minute to share my experience, and this is an experience with you personally. So, I definitely want to share that. So, when I was living in America for a brief time, I lived in Greenville, if you remember, and I used to come to your house because there was no association around. So either I had to go to south to Atlanta or north to your house. So that was the only shelter I had. So I remember that when I was working there, and my customer was General Electric, some logistics business. So it was one of the most toughest project in my life. What I was put on to that time, and I was in a manager's capacity, holding the whole team. But on the other side, the client manager was a young girl, very less experienced, maybe in her 20s, and she used to treat me like really bad. You can't expect somebody in 20s to treat somebody in close to 40s in such a horrible way. Not only through words, even through body language and even through her acts, it was very torturous. And I was completely broken apart. Kind of insult I was going through. It was like a forceful Trinadapi Sunichana going on for me. And at that time, I remember I traveled to your house, and naturally, still being very materialistic and not very surrendered to Krishna. When I was coming to your house, I was expecting some sympathy, because that is what most of the world expects. When they go through such things, and they come some words of sympathy, agreeing to you and disagreeing to whom you disagree, and basically uh, agreeing to whatever you say. But when I came to you and I told my situation, I told this is what I'm going through, and I was expecting very sympathetical statement that Prabhu, you are right, they are wrong, something like that from you. You directly told in one sentence, I don't know if you remember it or not, you just told in one sentence that why are you speaking like an atheist, like that you told. And it completely blew my mind off at that time, thinking, why is Prabhuji saying like this? What has my reaction got to do with being an atheist, or a theist, or somebody practicing Krishna conscious? Or and I started thinking and meditating about it, and very soon I was reading Bhagavatam parallelly, chapter by chapter. It so happened that I also read a part of this Avanti Brahman maybe a few days after our meeting, and then I understood why you told what you told to me. Because as you rightly told, how we react to incidents that happen in our life, trying to see faults in others. So I was holding that person in the office responsible for my situation, and I was expecting a sympathy on that. But you were trying to connect me to a higher truth, where it's not about seeing a person who is behaving with me like that, but it's about me deserving to go through it for my own purification. So it was a hard lesson for me to learn, and I would never forget those words that I heard from you, and I deeply appreciate and thank you for being what you are, always saying uncompromisingly what I need to hear. So thank you, that Roji. That's my experience I wanted to share, which I felt was relevant to today's topic. And the question that I had, Prabhuji, is you made a very nice statement today. You said material nature will not allow us to go through happy anartha nivritti. Again, it was a very strong statement, and a very true statement, of course, that this world is created for anartha nivritti. We have to purify us. The goal is to become Krishna conscious, and when we go through that, it is definitely painful. There's no doubt about it. So what you told is true. But the question I have is, in Krishna in second chapter also says, in the verse about vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasapiyasya param drishtva nivartate. He also says that when we get a higher taste, we let go the lower taste. That the tendency to let go the lower taste is very difficult unless we get a higher taste. So when you said that, Prabhuji, that anartha nivritti is going to be very painful, because we go through those changes. At the same time, Krishna is also saying that you're going to get a higher taste based on which you're going to leave a lower taste. I'm a little confused how to understand this and apply, because normally the tendency is, unless even in satsangs, when we join and when we want to change us, we only want to change when it is convenient and comfort and happy for us, right? Like for example, I get more taste in prasadam, so I stop eating outside, or I get more taste with devotees, so I stop meeting materialistic people. So it's always about a happy event replacing another less happy event, like something like that. But when you say that anartha nivritti is going to be painful, how do I understand the pain as compared to the higher taste? Did I put my question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Would you repeat the last part, Prabhuji, one more time?
Yeah, so Prabhuji, the last part is basically Lord Krishna is saying that a living entity would give away lower taste and take to the higher taste. Param dristvani vartate, is what Krishna is saying. So which means the path is very encouraging and very pleasing as well. You know, when we get pleased and we get connected with devotees and with Krishna, we let go other things, you know, behind. So that aspect is very nice to know and nice to follow. But if I go and tell somebody that, okay, now your Krishna consciousness is starting, your anartha nivritti is going to start and it's going to be very painful, naturally people will be like, oh my God, you know, what is this anartha nivritti? Why should I go through this pain? And the aspect of going through pain is not very encouraging for somebody to go move forward. Whereas when Krishna says that you get a higher taste to let go the lower taste, that is more appealing and easily acceptable. So I wanted to see how to balance both of these, because I know what you're saying is also true, that anartha nivritti is going to be painful, but how do we see it against what Krishna is saying, where he says higher taste will remove the lower taste. So the path is going to be joyful. Like even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, padam padam, what is it? In the first verse of Sishtastakam, he says, every step is going to be very joyful in devotional life.
Yeah, Cheto Darpana Marjanam.
Yes, Cheto Darpana Marjanam Param.
Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhav Mahadava Vinirvapanam Sriya Kairava Chandrika Vitranam Vidya Anandambudhi Vardhanam.
Yes, Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadam. You know, he's also saying that Pratipadam is Purnamrita, you know, where we are going to experience a higher bliss and higher happiness as we move forward, which is true. But you're also saying that, you know, anartha nivritti is going to be painful. So how do I understand both these truths together?
So one of the striking things I heard from the Acharyas in this relation is that in material world, pain is inevitable. Whether you want to go through another nivritti or not, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So whether somebody chooses the path of Krishna consciousness or not, that person cannot avoid the pain. But a devotee can use that pain to purify the another nivritti, can use that pain and convert that opportunity to complete the anartha nivritti, so that he doesn't have to go through this exercise endlessly. So, couple of things, probably. Material nature, we are always under the operation. We are always in the operation theater of material nature, always going through surgery. But the difference is there is no anesthesia here. So material nature, when it performs the surgery, it is without anesthesia, no matter how painful it is, because of our past sinful activities will inject those diseases within our body, either to the bone or the nervous system, brain, heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, whatever it is. So all those painful things that we inflicted on other living entities by not following the Guru and Shastra continuously, endlessly inject these diseases into our system. And because there are so many in this body of those diseases, so material nature continuously performs the surgery to keep us going. So your question is, can I get out of this surgery room? No, I don't think we have that option. But Krishna consciousness trains us that at some point we don't experience that pain anymore. There will be, we will become transcendental to it. We saw several acharyas. They will go through so much pain, but they will not exhibit any pain at all. And they even though, for example, His Holiness J. Pataka Swami Maharaj, he is a living example of inspiration and how much pain he can take from other suffering souls. And if it is not for him, if it is anybody else, he would die in a second. So for him, even though he was going through such a bodily pain every second, but still he is joyful. That brings us a confidence in the system of bhakti, the system of Krishna consciousness. So now let's think that if I don't take the path of Krishna consciousness, I don't have to go to hospital at all. Can anybody in this group say that I was born, I lived 40 years in my life, I never went to a doctor? Nobody can say that. Even if you probably, many of you may have never chanted the Harinam, let's assume until like 25 years, 30 years. So until whatever age you never chanted, surrendered to a Guru and Krishna, did you never went to a doctor and never took a shot? Right from the birth, our body comes out of the mother's womb. We succumb to so much pain. But now a wise man is coming and giving us an option that let's turn this pain, just like Avanti Brahmana, let's take this painful experience in such a way that we don't have to go through it again. Now let's go back to your opening part of the question, saying that Vishya Vinuvattante Niraharasya Dehina Rasvajam Rasopyasya Param Dristvani Vattate. So how anybody would transform that position of never surrendering to Krishna to surrender to Krishna? That stays no Krishna to yes Krishna is only when we have that higher taste. Param Dristvani Vattate. So we will leave our lower tendency only when we experience higher tendency. So those who have the bad habits of lower tendencies are weak in their mind, in their heart, and in their consciousness. Those who follow the rules and ethics of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, they are stronger than the people who break the rules, because they have to have so much of mental commitment not to violate the rules. A person who is weak just walks into a bar and drinks alcohol and go to a prostitute and breaks the vows of marriage and do all these abominable. But for a person who sees all those things on the street but still chooses not to go to those places, must be fixed in his consciousness not to do that. He resists that temptation. So that higher taste of not going to that place, to those places, is what is higher taste. So all of us on this call have to some degree that higher taste. We don't do those things, but our higher taste is very limited, in a very convenient to us. So some of the things that we are convenient to us, we follow. Those that are not convenient to us, we break it. Probably that's a better way to say it. So now, how do we uplift ourselves that this convenient following and convenient breaking? is by taking the association of devotees like His Holiness Bhakti Chari Swami Maharaj, Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, these wonderful souls who will never violate. Like a sannyasi said, when you associate with a pure devotee, you get the qualities of that pure devotee. So by associating, we will get that pure devotee. So for us to understand that, pain is inevitable, probably we should be practical to accept that reality. So does anybody within this earthly planet now immune to corona? Anybody can confidently say that I will not get a corona? The material nature is, this whole corona is an insignificant weapon in the arsenal of Maya. Just like in Mahabharata, when the Kauravas threw Vaishnavastra, Krishna was telling the Pandavas, don't fight against that weapon because it is the weapon of Vishnu. The only way to overcome that weapon is fall on the ground, pay obeisances and surrender. Drop all your weapons and surrender. But everybody was listening, not Bhimsen. Bhimsen says, I am Kshatriya, I will never surrender, I will fight. So the more and more you resist the Vaishnavastra, to that degree it will become more intense. And it took Bhimsen more time to realize that his power and his strength of 1,000 elephants is insignificant before Vaishnavastra. And eventually he fell down to the ground. And then only Vaishnavastra withdrew. We cannot fight against Vaishnavastra. Then what? How can we think that we can fight against the energy of Krishna? So the only way is surrendering to the lotus feet of a pure devotee of Krishna. Hopefully that answers your question, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, definitely answers. But Prabhuji, one little extension there. I often find this difficult to answer when some of them whom I'm trying to preach, they ask me this question. Some of them repeatedly is that when something wrong is done by a devotee, immediately they come and say, see, I told you it's not working. See, I told you that, what is the use of practicing all this? What is the use of chanting? What is the use? See, Prabhu, you are telling that he is chanting for so many years. He's doing so much sadhana. But why did he do that? The questions are not, the questions don't make me feel that sometimes I doubt whether they really want to practice or they're just waiting for an opportunity to question the process again and again. Personally, though I'm convinced, but I often find it difficult to answer when someone questions like that, saying whenever anything wrong happens with the devotee, why did he react like that? And that means the process is not working. So how do I answer this? And personally, also I want to know it. I also never misinterpret any such incident.
First of all, we should not judge the devotee because by looking at a body, material body, we do not know what that person in his previous life, what kind of spiritual maturity he is bringing in. Sometimes we see some devotees who are 90 years old but still don't meet the standards of bhakti, even though they were chanting. But sometimes we see young devotees, like 15-year-old, they demonstrating very high standards of bhakti, spiritual maturity. So the external body and the length of the sadhana are not indicative. The bhakti is very dynamic in nature, and the only governing principle in this case is ye yadamam prapadyante, how much that person has surrendered. So we do not know, there is no meter that is on the forehead of any devotee that says this person 80% surrendered. So only Krishna knows that how much that person said. So, but we have to remember that bhakti is a one-way street. There are exits. but those exits will bring us back to the road. Once we surrender to a pure devotee and accepted the Harinam and the Bhakti process, Krishna consciousness, we are not going back. There are no U-turns. So all the devotee has an option of taking an exit and roam around and come back to the same road. He cannot get out of the highway. That highway will never take him back to anywhere he wants. It is a temporary pause in the journey of that devotee. Bhakti will purify no matter what. Bhakti will purify no matter of how much delay it is and how many sinful activities and non-compliance that person is doing in the Krishna consciousness. So the more and more we resist to follow the instructions of Guru, that much pain Krishna will inflict upon us. Just like imagine yourself that you are walking on the street and you stepped on a gum, somebody spit the gum on the street, you stepped on it, and your shoe starts sticking in. Every further step you take, your feet gets stick to the road. So you can compare, this is a metaphor, right? So you can compare that gum is our attachment and the road as a material aspect. The more stronger that attachment is, we feel we cannot get out of the road every time. So we have to wash it. And that washing is, when we wash the shoes, when we wash our feet, that gum goes away, the attachment goes away, and we are free to walk. That washing is another nivritti. The washing is chanting the holy names of Hari. The washing is surrendering to Krishna's devotee. But that's the only way, Prabhuji. That's the only way. There is no spiritual institution in India right now, unfortunately, that teaches us the process of mukti. Everybody tells you, do this, I will give you this. I will treat corona, I will give you that post, this money, that political position. There is nobody who is bold enough like Srila Prabhupada, who is pure enough like Srila Prabhupada, that can tell everybody that I will not solve any of your material problems. I will give you a solution that will avoid future problems. But whatever you have done in the past, you have to go through this in this lifetime.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I'm very grateful for your answers. Yeah. So, any other participants, please speak up if you have any question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhuji. May I know your name, Prabhuji?
Sukrit, I am Sukrit.
Can you be a little louder, Prabhu? You can...
My name is Sukrit, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, my question is how to avoid finding faults in other devotees.
There is a lot of personal discipline you can follow, Prabhuji. That is one of the reasons why I am taking this class, because I found myself falling victim to this, because I work long hours every day with Bank of America and in a leadership position. And part of my job is to find strengths and weaknesses of other people so that I can balance my deliverables to meet the leadership goals. So I have to judge people. I have to find faults with people, even though I don't tell them, and find a strong team member who can counteract that and complete that and deliver the product. So I go through these emotions on daily basis. And I know that these are very detrimental to my spiritual growth. But just like that butcher who kills animals and sells meat, I am working in a material world and committing sinful activities that that are detrimental to my spiritual life. Remember this, Prabhuji. When we get into this material world, we practically committed suicide by rejecting Krishna and accepting Maya shelter. So all these material entanglements quietly purges the spiritual enthusiasm. So the one experience that I just described, my own experience of what I go through at my work, and that I went through the introspection, and in order to protect myself, I requested Prabhuji to have these 3-day part, so that the intention was not to inspire you, not to enlighten you, but purify myself. The more and more I try to explain this, the more and more I understand about Avanti Brahmana. And I hopefully by the mercy of Avanti Brahmana, I would be able to develop that lens, invisible lens, and put it on my glasses. And whenever I see a person where I have to judge and find faults, I will see through that lens of Avanti Brahmana. So acquire that lens. And that is what I am going to describe starting from today, tomorrow, next week, and the following week. But how do we reach that point is by sincerely hearing, taking notes, and meditating on it, and reading Prabhupada's books, listening to the Acharya. There is no other way, Prabhuji. Only a devotee association will help you to deal with a challenging provocations. A devotee will not react to a situation. He will respond to the situation. So every time you probably, after these 3-part series, you encounter where you need to find faults with somebody else. So you have to remember this story when Avanti Brahmana sitting on the bank of that river, which I will be discussing next week. And he was eating his lunch, and people are urinating, passing stool in his lunch plate, beating him up, and he was not even saying a word. What kind of mental discipline he must have? How much realization he went through? We have to go through that. So hold on to your excitement and enthusiasm until next week. Hopefully, I will serve your lotus feet.
Prabhuji, is it a good idea that we all read the chapter once before we attend your session next week? Or you think?
Of course, Prabhuji. Yeah, of course. But Prabhuji, I am not reading Srila Prabhupada's purports, which are jewels, diamonds. So there is so much Prabhupada imparts in those purports. So I take the most essentials of it, and I insert my own realizations into what I am going to speak today, what I spoke today, and I am going to speak next following sessions. But it will tremendously help everybody to read through those verses before coming. But what Avanti Brahmana tells all of us is that every material difficulty we encounter in this world is an opportunity to surrender to Krishna. And he used it, and he demonstrated, and he transformed an almost disastrous story of life into a successful story. So if Avanti Brahmana can do it, we all can do it. So that is the message that I want to drive to all of you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. One last thing, I remember, I take away sentence that I see that I heard from you today is when you told that not everything in Krishna consciousness might be pleasing to you, and not everyone you meet in Krishna consciousness might treat you good, but the sole reason for us practicing Krishna consciousness is to please Krishna. That was very deep and very touching for me. today my takeaway, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So thank you once again, Prabhu. So should we end here, or you have anything more to share?
No, this time works for me, Prabhuji. I hope it works for other participants also, other devotees. But this is, and I am planning to complete in 3 parts, but to our next class will be longer.
Yes.
Because there are a lot more verses, almost 29 or 30 verses I have to cover. And today is the smallest. The Bhikshu Gita is a beautiful conclusion of Krishna's opinion of what this Brahmana went through. But definitely, Prabhu, I am really grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity, though I do not have any qualification at all. But I am very grateful, and I bow down before all of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
We do miss you, Prabhuji. You coming to Hyderabad, spending time with us. Almost, I think 25 out of 29 participants in Zoom and a few more in YouTube. Around 10 of them are all from, most of them are from the same satsang that you had conducted. And the moment I sent the invite that you were going to speak, I'm very grateful that all of them have come forward and they're attending. And I would like to hear a few words. Subbarao Prabhu, do you want to say anything? Praveen Prabhu? Hare Krishna. You can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Acharya Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, it's very nice to see you again. And I was eager to listen to you after a long time. And every time you speak, I think I hear new revelations and how you are relating the work environment to this. It's a very, very, same thing I'm also thinking. And it's a great lecture, Prabhuji, and I'm looking forward to listen to more sessions from you. And thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your enlightenment.
Hare Krishna.
Subbarao Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Bol, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Bhavnar Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. I miss you. I miss all of you. I miss all of you, Prabhuji.
It's very nice, Prabhuji. No, I joined late. I couldn't follow the entire discussion, but I was following from where you're answering question and answers.
Hare.
So most of us are very eager to see you again in Hyderabad, Prabhuji.
Yes, and, Prabhuji. When are you coming, Prabhuji? $1 million question.
Yes.
But at least you're able to do this.
Yes, and I'm extremely grateful that you chose this topic for us, Prabhuji. It was very relevant, and as I said, also, it is clearly a message that we are getting from you, what Krishna wants to convey us. So I'm really looking forward for the future sessions, the next 2 sessions. And there are few who are not able to attend because of few reasons, but they told me that they will hear it on YouTube live. So once it is uploaded on YouTube, I think after a few hours, it will automatically upload. I will send the link to everybody so that they can, whoever missed it can get prepared for the next session hearing this. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। श्रीनिवास आचार्य प्रभु की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
हरे कृष्ण।